Lounge with Travefy Academy, where we get to hear from travel industry voices and experts to learn more about their story and what they see on the horizon for travel professionals. I'm Stephanie Grice, and our guest today is Sheila Folk, who is CEO and the guiding force behind travel industry solutions. So, welcome to the lounge, Sheila. We're excited to have you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I'm so glad to be here.
Yeah, and we're there. I know we've talked before, and I'm so excited for all our listeners to hear what you have to say. But first, for the main encompassing question, is can you just tell us a little bit more about yourself and just how you even got started in the travel industry?
So I spent 15 years as a hospitality industry executive, and I needed more flexibility in my life because I had lost my husband, and I wanted a business that I thought I could dive into and love, but would also make me money. So about 3.5 years ago, I opened up my own travel agency, home based, and I grew it very quickly. It was wildly successful, but not without a few pains in the beginning. I realized that there were some holes in the industry that needed to be addressed. I quickly filled those holes and needs that I had. And I have now brought the solutions that helped to catapult my agency to the marketplace for travel advisors. And so that's how Travel Industry Solutions was born. And it's been a whirlwind. We launched last year at the Connection Show. We've added multiple host agencies. We've had thousands of advisors look to us for guidance on solutions to support the business of your business.
That's awesome. And I know when we talked before, you are just growing when you launched. This is definitely something the industry needed. And so really awesome. And with that, with all your business expertise and success, what do you feel is one of the biggest challenges that travel professionals face that might hold them back?
Well, it kind of goes back to what I just said when I started up my travel business is I looked at it as a business. I'm a business that sells travel. And so I went into this with a CEO mindset where I find it's very common for folks to enter into this business because they love to travel themselves. They want the travel perks. They think it's going to be super easy to book their friends since they're already planning those trips for their friends. And so they don't have that CEO and business mindset. And I think that holds back a lot of travel advisors for from getting to the place that where they want to be or that they could be. And it's more than just loving travel and finding really cool destinations. And I always tell people, really, I find that's only 10 to 20% of the job. My best friend has circumnavigated the world twice because her husband speaks all over the world. And she always says, I love travel. I've been everywhere. I know every destination. Could I come work for you part-time because I still run my agency? And in my mind, I always say no, because she doesn't have the skill set to run the other areas of the business well, and she doesn't want to. So I think the biggest thing that holds people back is not having that CEO or business mindset. And there's lots of ways that you can get there. You don't have to know it all out of the gate. You can learn it. You can find resources out there that will help support you. I think the most important thing is that also researching the resources that are being made available to you and asking a lot of the questions. Well, give me the data that supports what it is that you're selling to me, or what has been your experience. So there's definitely a lot of opportunity to tap into some great knowledge out there. Just ask the questions first to make sure the knowledge that's being sold to you is the knowledge that's going to work for you.
Yeah, that makes a total ton of sense, in there. That's a one thing we hear a lot too is, a lot of people get in the business because they enjoy travel and it's fun to book and go check out new places, but it's a business at the end of the day. So that is really true. And this might go into the next question, that I was already planning to ask, but I'm curious though, when, you started your travel business, what were some things that you found, that were big wins for you that you would recommend other people doing?
The big wins for me, systematizing, automating, having a lot of cheat sheets, having a lot of programs in place already. Um, I didn't have a lot of product knowledge. So in the beginning, I was a master at Googling while I was on the phone with my clients who were asking questions. But what I did was I documented a lot of the questions that my clients were asking of me. I documented information that I was receiving in the travel advisor community. And then I spent a lot of time diving deep on my own to learn about it. So for instance, what do I mean by that? In the beginning, I sold a lot of cruises. At first, I had an Excel workbook that had individual tabs for every single cruise line. And I used this guide to open up and quickly go to, let's say, Holland America or Regent Seven Seas or whomever it was. And while I was speaking with my client on the phone, I was able to say, well, actually, they only sail in this region during this time of year. And they'll say, well, what's the difference between this category and this category? Well, here it is. It made me sound super, super smart. And, even if I had never sailed the product, but what I eventually did was I found kind of my groove in which product I liked selling. So I eventually pared it down, but that was a great tool for me to have to quickly access. The other thing that I did as well is started to try to identify trends in questions that were being asked over and over and over again, or things that I had to say, over and over and over again. I was like, if I had to say this one more time, oh my gosh, I am just going to gouge my eyes out with toothpicks. And so I started developing a lot of scripting, very detailed scripting. So that was, I would say those two things were really important to give me the bandwidth I needed to continue to learn more, but also take on more business at the same time because I needed bandwidth.
Yeah. No, that is a really good idea. It's almost like your own internal support documentation, your FAQs for, yourself to go to really fast. And that's so smart to be ready to go for answer those questions.
And you know what? You definitely said it very well. I had my own FAQ sheet, and it was very detailed and segmented. I'm a little obsessed with operational efficiency and details. So for me, it was not very difficult to think about what this would look like now and how I was going to scale it in the future, because I'm always thinking about what are my needs today, and I know my needs are going to change, and I don't want to have to redo everything all the time and have to reinvent the wheel. So, through the processes and systems I developed, I made sure that it was something that was one, doable, easily executed, and or executable, and I could scale it. So
Yeah.
those are some things. The automation, time management is a huge deal.
Yeah.
I think too, one of the other things that's really important is your cash flow management. It's really hard when you're starting out. You don't really know what you're going to need and how quickly the money is going to come in and where you're at exactly making your money. And really understanding your numbers is super important too, because I think you can better identify where you should be spending your money, when you should be spending your money, and what type of products you're selling is going to make you the most money. And of course, you want to be happy with the product you're selling. It can't be the number one driver, but you need to understand those numbers so you can understand your cash flow and how everything else is going to fall into place. When can I scale? When is it the right time to bring on ICs? When is it the right time to invest in other tools in my business, so that it makes sense and I'm not feeling so squeezed? Because in the beginning, it's tough.
Yeah, no, that all makes a lot of sense. And especially right now for, as travel starts ramping back up to really understand, you're not going to get paid right away for some of these. So what is this looking like? How much effort and time are you putting into things? So that's really great points. So you kind of have already touched on a lot of things that agents can do and start, thinking about in their own business. But what are some actionable things that travel professionals can do right now to ramp up sales?
Gosh, there's so many things. I think that in order for you to ramp up sales, you need to create bandwidth for yourself. Right now, I'm seeing a group of agents who are still looking for those opportunities and they want to bring in those customers. And it's very geographic based. I'm noticing based on where you live and how long your lockdowns have been there or whatever. So there's a certain set of needs for those people, and then there's the group who are already overwhelmed and they want to take on more, but they really can't. So let's kind of break that down a little bit. For those advisors who maybe don't have that big client base that is filling your coffers, or you don't have those clients who haven't quite yet been ready to take the leap. I'm a big fan of relationships. I'm a big fan of picking up the phone. I'm not a big fan of the magic bullet. I don't think the magic bullet exists, but I do think that there are activities that you need to do in your business to keep your face out there. So I do email marketing. I do the traditional social media marketing to stay in front of those customers. But honestly, I think picking up the phone and checking in with those people and putting those clients into buckets. Um, I also think for those newer advisors who don't have as many clients, they really underestimate the power of the value that they contribute to each customer one at a time. So, get out there, make sure you are speaking to your customers, make sure you're touching them in multiple ways, invite them to reach out to you and ask questions about their concerns. Send them something that is valuable. Like, as part of our solutions, we have a COVID travel checklist, and it's really putting customers at ease. What can they expect? So that may garner some questions that come in. For the advisors who are already in that overwhelmed state, like the phone's been ringing off the hook, to bring in more activity and more revenue and bring in those sales, I think stepping back and looking at the processes that are going to give you the bandwidth will be most important for you. Otherwise, you're going to end up where you were a year ago or 2 years ago. I think that a lot of us kind of develop bad habits, and we've had a lot of time to think about what new habits we want, but we weren't expecting to have this rush like right now all of a sudden. And so I'm finding that those that have been slammed with the rush weren't quite as prepared. Does that answer your question? I
It
it's
does.
multifaceted.
Yeah. No, I'm really glad that you broke it down between, because that is the reality of it, that everyone and agents across the world are in different situations in a way. 'Cause some agents getting completely slammed, like you said. And that is really crazy because we knew it would happen, but what it just happened. And so it's like, oh my God, it's here. And it still is a slow ramp up because we're still dealing with restrictions. I mean, that still is a thing, depending on where you're traveling to and all of that, and things could change. So you still have to be on your toes. But then there's a lot of agents too who still haven't, experienced it yet. They know it's coming, but there still are more restrictions for them. So I really like how you broke that down. So that was perfect. I love that.
Well, and also, I was on a clubhouse the other day with actually my former boss, and he has a group that's tailored to the, he has a product and a group that's tailored to the hospitality industry, but it's primarily hoteliers and DMOs. And we were talking a lot about how to keep up with a lot of the regulations. And he said, "Hey, Sheila, are you keeping a list?" And I said, "You know what, Ed? I've stopped because it's just changing so
Yeah.
quickly. It's almost impossible to keep up with." So my suggestion is, when you are looking at ways to either ramp up your sales or support the back end of your business, look at those things that are repeatable, because the repeatable items are the ones that usually will occur more frequently. So once you get those set, you're kind of good to go. But I don't want to discount not having, not staying on top of every destination. It's impossible, but at least have an idea of the destinations that you like to sell and have traditionally sold in the past. If you're one of those agents who hasn't, had that floodgate quite yet, be prepared. Just stay on top of what's happening in the industry. Don't let that muscle, that what I call your brain, get too relaxed, because you're going to have to move at a breakneck speed pretty soon.
Yeah, and that is so true where, the past year we've let some habits form, some bad habits. We've gotten a little relaxed and now it's just like, "Oh, here it is. Now it's time." So that's such good points. And those were the main questions that I had, but I want to just check in and see if there's anything you think is missing, but also, can you share more information on your business and where people can, get connected with you and find more information?
Sure. So the name of the company is Travel Industry Solutions. And what we do is we provide legal, warranted, compliant contracts that are for both independently credentialed and hosted agencies. It's a really cool, unique product. Nobody has done anything like this before because we're not templates, but we actually put our money where our mouth is, and we back the words that are on our pages of our legal contracts. But then the rest of our product are solutions that I used and perfected and field tested over 3.5 years, which helped to catapult my agency to 8 million in revenue in 2 years. So I would say the tools are pretty decent. And what I mean by tools is a lot of the stuff, the scripting, the tracking, the checklists, the how-tos, the guides, the professionally designed touch points that you can send to your client that says, here's what to expect, traveling post-COVID, here's how to pack, here's how to do this. So it's been exciting. We're continuing to add to it. We also address other areas of your business, website policies. A lot of agents don't know that when you're collecting information through your website, you have to have privacy policies in place. I've met advisors who have been in business 30 years and they don't even have privacy policies. But there's other things, how to work with influencers. This is great for that new agent or that agent who's looking to go outside of their hometown to garner other customers. How can you leverage relationships with influencers? And an influencer doesn't have to mean a travel blogger. It could mean somebody who blogs about beers around the world. What about flowers? There's a lot of people who are interested in gardening. I have one client who spends a boatload every year to go to the flower show in London. There's tons of opportunities. I mean, just even going to Washington State in the spring when the tulips are coming up, how fabulous is that? So partnering with those people. So we do extend into other areas of the business. Our next stop is copyright infringement. We're going to be doing an entire series around copyright infringement, which I think is really important for this community.
Yeah, that is really cool. And I love how you cover so many different aspects of the business. So, really
Well, and I
awesome.
love how you guys are expanding your tools too, because I believe in having the right tools in place at the right time to help you to um, really look professional, um, feel professional, have quick access to um, some of the great solutions that you guys offer. And our from our side, it's all about simple solutions. That's how I act in my travel business. That those are the things that we do in travel industry solutions. And I know for Travelify too, it's like simple solutions to help you look and be more professional. And
Yeah.
I just I love how that all kind of works together. And
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's where both of our Travify and your business, well, we both have noticed and seen the same thing of just, simplifying the business and making it easy, but also, helping you look good and streamlining your business. So, yeah.
well, and as switching, going back to the whole idea of the onslaught of travel requests, I think it's really important for travel advisors also to kind of set realistic plans in motion and don't fall into the trap of burnout because we're all so hungry to have the business again and have travel begin to return. Um, it's easy to fall into that trap. And then you fall back into those bad habits of yours. So think about setting some realistic plans in place, to achieve the goals that you want in your business. Right now, we have probably the best opportunity in the history of travel to become so valuable and for consumers to not be able to travel without us anymore. The value proposition that we bring to the table is not like anything I've seen in the history of this industry.
Yes, exactly. And that's what so many people have been saying, that this is a time that's rare and you probably won't get again. So take advantage of it. So it's so important.
Well, there's I'll we've talked about a lot of things, and I think what I'd like to do is sort of summarize for some of the advisors who are listening now about how you can, ramp up your sales, get to more profitability faster. And there's really a few things, but it's always going to start with first being a CEO of your business. You've got to be the CEO of your business. Um, you know, Look at your cash flow management and proper budgeting. That's going to be super important. That's going to dictate a lot of things in your business. Um, you know, when you're looking to grow, because we're going to grow pretty quickly and those bookings will come in, you're going to immediately say to yourself, well, I need to bring on ICs. Well, I think it would be really important for you to look at why you're going to bring those in. What is your motivation? Time management is going to give you the opportunity to make more money. That's how you're going to get those profits up, and also focus on activities and invest in activities that will bring in those clients that don't know who you are. So the systems are really going to support the profits and the sales piece. Choosing what to sell right now. I know we're all trying to make money, so we're selling what's open, but do think about what your path is and what you're true to as we kind of start opening up more and more and more and more, because then you're able to serve your clients better. Um, Take some time to mark out what your marketing strategy looks like now and 6 months from now, because you don't want to just kind of disappear. You can't just walk away. I think your presence, your brand presence is really important to continue to support along the way. And that'll also help to feed in those new customers. Um, Investing in capital and tools. When are you going to do it? When's, how are you going to do it? And I know it's always hard to invest in something when you don't have the revenue right now, but if you can find a way to cut out that Starbucks drink once a week to invest in something that's actually going to give you lifetime value and more return, think about how you can rejigger where you're spending some of your money. Like I said, business growth plans that are realistic. Be realistic with yourself and honest with yourself. And don't look for the magic bullet for 100 leads a day. Take the one lead that you get and really focus on them, because guess what? They have friends, they have family, and those friends and family have friends and family. And, don't discount that 25-year-old who wants to sail on that Carnival cruise, because guess what? One day they're going to be 45 and they're going to be the CEO of Carnival Cruises.
So true. I love that. That's so good. Thank you for summarizing that. That's very helpful.
Oh, you're
I love
welcome.
that.
I kind of
So
think
good.
that way, or I try to at least. Sometimes I'm pulled in a few different directions. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes I feel a little bit frazzled too. But
No, it's perfect because we've covered so much. Well, and that also just goes to show that, again, you love systems and keeping it organized and a flow. So that just goes to show. So it's awesome. Well, before we wrap up here, though, we always like to do a couple rapid fire questions just to ask you some fun questions here. So if you need, they're pretty easy, but some of them might make you think. So if you need a pass, just let me know. But I only have a few here, so shouldn't
okay.
be too bad. But the first question here is what is your favorite destination you've traveled to?
Oh, that's easy. Hands down. I go to the Abacos. I've been going to the Abacos for 20 years. It is my home away from home. I am going there in 3 weeks, even though they
Oh,
haven't recovered from the hurricane. So hands down, the Abacos.
that is awesome. That's awesome. Did you get to go last year?
No, it wasn't in a good state yet. They
Yeah.
still didn't have power. So
Oh,
they
man.
have power now. So I'm able to go, and a lot of the homes have been rebuilt.
Awesome. That's really cool. Okay, so the next question here is what is the best meal you've had while traveling?
Ooh, that's a tough one. See, I'm
Okay, that one's a good one.
Italian, and my family still lives in Italy, actually, many generations. So anything that comes from Italy, I absolutely love.
Yes.
North,
Great
south,
answer.
it doesn't matter the region.
Yeah, just anything. Oh, I love that answer. That's a good one. Okay, so just the last question here for you is what is the last great book or article that you've read?
Oh, last book, Where the Crawdads Sing.
I love that book. Yes, it's so good.
Yeah, I love that book. And as a matter of fact, I was just thinking I need to post on Facebook and get like book recommendations for my trip coming up, because I'm still single, after all these years of since my husband passed. So my daughter's 11 now, and
Oh,
she's going to bring a friend. And this is very intentional so that mommy can have some downtime.
I like it.
And I need some good books so I can float in the pool, and they've got their bikes and they can ride around the island. And I know they're safe because we know everybody that lives there. So,
Yeah. That is awesome. Oh my gosh. So, anybody who's listening, if you have good book suggestions, we need to just start our own podcast because every time we ask this question, it's like, oh, let me add that to my list. But I have read that one and it's amazing
okay,
and
so
it's so
do you
good.
have a good one for
I'm,
me?
I'm trying to think. Let me, because
Go
with
through
the
your list.
crawdads, I know I'm gonna look. I use Goodreads, and so let me check here because there's one I'm thinking of. So I'm trying to think because I've read a lot of the books I've been reading lately are more nonfiction and like business type ones. Um, but let me see. I'm trying to think of the other one there. I might have to get back to you
Okay, well, you
because
can go through your Goodreads
oh
over the next few days.
yes, yeah, I'll go through in the next few days, but I do remember the one though. So I listened to this one though, the guest list. So
Okay.
it's okay. It wasn't as good as The Crawdad, so it's not as good. But the other book that I read recently that I really liked, I don't know if this wouldn't be again, this would be nonfiction, but Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey is really good, and I recommend the audio version because
Okay,
he
well,
does
I
it.
take a walk every morning, so I can listen to it while I'm walking. I
Yes.
do about a 3 mile walk. So
Oh,
that's perfect.
perfect. And it's really motivating too because it kind of talks it's very interesting because he has kind of a very quirky life, but it's really motivating too. So, highly recommend that one.
Well, I need
It's
some.
like,
I usually on my walk in the morning, I listen to business podcasts.
yeah.
So and really in within all industries. So I know for people, we tend to get so pigeonholed and only want to listen to the ones that are specific to our industry. But I find that I learn a lot when I go into other vertical markets and I listen to what some of those people are saying. Um, it kind of makes me think a little bit more. And two, there's
Yeah.
the co-founder of Netflix. He is on Clubhouse on Saturday nights at 8 o'clock, and you can actually get up on the stage as a
Okay.
startup and ask for his advice. And so I love hearing all of these businesses, these people who have these startups and they're all over the world. And of course, who wouldn't want advice from the co-founder of Netflix, right?
Yeah. Isn't that amazing how connected we are and how connected you can be with, yeah, Clubhouse has been really great. And one last question for you, since you brought up the podcast, what's your favorite podcast you listen to?
Oh gosh. I'm all over the place. I can't think of the one off the top of my head because like I said, I literally bounce around. I will bounce between the travel industry and other businesses, and then I'll do Audible, and then I'll do music. So I just like to hear what other people have to say. I love it. I just like I'm
Mhm.
like a sponge.
And
So
actually, that does remind me. I'm listening to another book right now called Range, and it's kind of about how people, because there's the 10,000 hour rule of if you practice something 10,000 hours, you're perfect at it. But they're kind of pushing back on that. Where Range, there's really people who, if you focus in different things and you expand your mind, you actually can be more versatile and better. And that reminds me of what you're talking about, where you like listening to, business and then music and all different types of things. And it gets your creative juices flowing and you're not siloed into one thing. So it reminds me of that.
well, yeah, and I've noticed that really it is a lot of industries, but I particularly noticed in this industry is that we forget there's lots of great things to learn
Yeah.
outside of this industry, and even just going into other verticals in this industry. When I was on the clubhouse with my former boss the other day, I asked the question to the hoteliers on the clubhouse call. I said, "So, you've been great at communicating with us when we're looking at properties for our customers in Mexico, and we understand we need to look for the properties who are doing the testing and what are your protocols. But are you really ready for what is about to happen? And how are you going to tackle that?" And do you know, not one person could answer me. And it was really interesting
That's
because there were like vice presidents of global brands in this clubhouse, and not one person could answer. And so it made me think, where do I need to go? Where do I need to listen? How do I tap into this? These are things that are important to me as an agency owner when I'm sending my clients. But then how could I help travel advisors be more prepared from the TIS side? What can I arm them with if they're not thinking about these things?
Yeah, that's really fascinating and not surprising because I think this whole time we've always, magic ball, what's the answer we need? And everyone's figuring it out at the same time. And if you're not actively searching for it, it's going to come and you won't have the answer. So
I know. right?
That is, yeah. And also one last thing, we could talk forever on
I
here, but
know.
I could just keep going. But for Clubhouse, we've talked about Clubhouse on previous podcasts. But what is your username on Clubhouse? Do you know what it is and people can find you?
Yeah, let me look it up.
Yeah, and I'll also, for those listening, I'll attach it into our article and you can see the links to everything too. And I'll add her Clubhouse in there.
So my username is, and I'm still figuring out Clubhouse, so forgive me. But obviously you have my name, Sheila Folk, but it's at Travel Solutions. That's it.
Perfect.
Just
That's
at
easy to
Travel
remember.
Solutions. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome. I know Clubhouse is pretty amazing. And like you said, I mean, you get to talk to top people who, I mean, and the travel, it is just getting really, there's so many people in the travel industry getting in there. I just keep hearing about it.
Yeah, I really try to branch out in there. And actually, I'm going to be starting up a podcast soon. I will let you guys know, but I am doing it with another individual who I greatly respect in this industry. He and I are so in alignment with how we think and what we want to bring to this industry. So I do know the name. It just isn't launched yet, but it's Travel Business Solutions. And I'm doing it with Richard D'Ambrosia. And many of you guys know who he is. He has such a great mind. I love the way he thinks. And so we want to have Travify on our podcast.
Nice. Yes, we will join. And we love Richard too. We've had him on another webinar. And he was very similar. Like what you're saying is you need to get the business side down and get your numbers and figure everything out. And that's what he did on our webinar. And I think it just, everyone's minds was like, oh my gosh, you're so right. We need to know actual numbers. We need to be able to look things up and, drop of a hat, know these things. So that's awesome. That's going to be an amazing podcast.
I can't wait. We're going to bring on lots of different people that are even outside of the industry, leadership, communication coaching, to great solution providers that we believe in this industry and that we've used ourselves and know the power of what those solutions can bring to us. And then also ask those questions like, how are the marketing materials really supporting us, and what kind of traction that are being supplied by our suppliers? What do we really need? What do we need from those suppliers to do a better job other than having those 2-for-1 offers? We'll dive really deep into lots of topics. I mean, I could talk about relationships literally for 4 weeks straight and what that means.
Yeah.
So it's going to be great. I'm excited.
Yeah, that's really awesome. And everyone look out for that as well coming. And I just want to thank you so much again for sharing your expertise and just chatting with us here today. It was so much fun. And thanks to everyone tuning in to this episode of The Lounge with Travify Academy. And again, thank you so much, Sheila, for joining us. And be sure to subscribe to our podcast or subscribe to our YouTube channel for all of the latest episodes. And we hope you enjoyed our conversation today and join us again. But for now, stay safe, and we'll catch you on the next flight.